Hey there, business animals. It's Kim with Be More Business, and welcome to the the Business Animal Podcast. Boy, I'm rebranding it all the way into my business today. Today, I'm here with my friend and client, and I am a big fan of this lady. Her name is Angie Wiley, right? I
Yes.
got it right.
Yes.
So it's funny, Angie, because I have this entire section of my historic family that are Willies. So I'm always saying it wrong, but Angie Wiley of You Are Strong. So Angie, would you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yes. Hi. Yes, Angie Wiley, and I have a company called You Are Strong. I started this company back in 2013. At that point, it was part-time because I was still in the corporate world. And I had taken that leap and was following my heart, trying to figure it out. And so started working part-time. And then I had a lot of life things happen, challenges. But it was in 2021 when I took the leap and I went full time with You Are Strong. And You Are Strong is, I am a high performance coach. I work mostly around the mindset, the mental game, and I work with everyone from athletes to salespeople to people in business, because really any of us that are working to achieve the next level are it's all around high performance, and the foundation of that is a strong mindset.
Absolutely. And you and I met as you as a client to help you with some CRM projects and email marketing. And I do want to also mention for those of you who are listening to this, if you happen to hear a drill as a typical high performance entrepreneur, Angie is also double dutying in having her closet replaced today. Is that right? Having new cabinets
It
installed?
is, yeah, and there's like a commercial happening around it. So there's a GoPro going, and I thought that I had diluted the noise, but now they're outside my window. So, but that is life
Absolutely.
of the home business person, right?
That is, and that's the life of high performance, and you've gotta work right through it, right? So, there's nothing like this podcast is always really real, so that's part of what we're gonna experience today. So, when I first met Angie, she was, taking the program that she had developed and expanding it and getting more people involved, and it was really concentrated around, high school and college athletes. And you have a personal story with that. Like this is a deeply personal experience for you and what you created. Would you share that with our listeners?
Yeah, absolutely. So, growing up, I was through high school for myself. I was a four-sport athlete. I loved athletics. I'm from a small town in Missouri, so that was basically where I spent my time and what I did. And obviously, I loved it. Had a passion for it. What I really loved was basketball. So I did go on and play college basketball. 2 years at Johnson County up in the Kansas City area, and then 2 years at Pittsburgh State in Pittsburgh, Kansas, and loved my college career. And coming out of college, though, and just through all of those experiences, I saw how much the mental game and the mindset impacted performance. And I had a passion for it at that time. And then I ended up out and in the business world and in the sales world. And I like to say sales became my game because I was just so highly competitive. But then in that world, I saw once again how much the mindset and the mental game from grown adults impacts performance, and how some people will hit obstacles and they succeed and excel. And then there's other people who hit those obstacles and they just fold and shut down. And so I saw how the importance of that carried on into life.
Absolutely. And your program in for the athletes, it helps them as young people start to understand how to structure their world so that they're supported mentally and emotionally with themselves to be able to take on the impact and the pressure that the sports puts on them, which I know is great for people who are very dedicated athletes. I was never that dedicated of an athlete. So I did the intellectual pursuits, but equally as impactful, right? There was as much of a game there as there is in corporate America, as there is in
Ye
being an entrepreneur. So
absolutely.
I love that people who walk away from your program as young people walking into the workforce with a toolkit that they can pull
Yeah.
on to help them get through. Now, not all of us have had that opportunity to have the You Are Strong training, and I know you also work with adults. And here's where I'm going to marry all of this together. My topic for the month of January, which is when we're recording and when this will be published, of 2025, is working on your business. Because I work with a lot of entrepreneurs who I say that statement and they don't know what that means. And there's a level of it that they put in of when it means to work on my business is to work on my marketing or to do my books and accounting. But for me, working on your business means that you're doing the things that are going to impact your business 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 5 years from now, not next week or not this afternoon. And part of that process is to work on yourself. And as you
Mhm.
know, I'm a gestaltist. I do work with a lot of people around helping them move through their trauma and the responses that have been built in them and the reactions that have been built in them through that, and how that falls out in their business. But what you're doing with your adults is you are helping them with that high performance area on working in themselves. So can you tell me a little bit about what that looks like?
Yes. It so when I work with someone, I like to work with them for a minimum of 8 weeks, and I shared that piece because the way we think and how we respond emotionally, and take action on things or not, that is all a habit, and it takes time to change and shift those habits. And so when you look at the foundation of that and the foundation of your mindset, the things that we look at, and I will share, there's a piece of my program that we do look at what is your vision, because you mentioned working on your business and that long term. And so it's getting clear around that. But once you are clear on that vision, we have to be aware and we have to know the things that are going to hold us back or that are potential obstacles. And so we really do look at what stories do you tell yourself? No matter what we have coming at us in life, our brain will automatically create stories. If you are working to take your business to the next level, you're going to have a story around that. And that story could either support you and build you up and push you forward, or it could be the very thing that holds you back. We also, I train on how to control your state. Because when you are up leveling, you're going to have things come at us, right? You're going to have mistakes, you're going to have failures. How are you handling all of that, right? And how do you continue to, understand the power of the high state? And then, even though we may drop to lower states, and when I'm talking high state, um, not to go into it too much, but it is like it's when you're in that flow state, right? Your confidence is high. You're in flow, so you're accomplishing a lot of things. You're really taking action on those things that you need to take action on. Whereas at low state, you might be frustrated. You may feel overwhelmed, just stuck, right? To kind of give you that. But we look at those states and how do you bring yourself to a higher state, because that is where we're going to perform our best and show up our best and really truly accomplish the most and move the needle the most. I also work through performance visualization because it's an incredibly powerful tool. That is not just for athletes, that's a misconception. Uh, and then we look at your beliefs because, you may have a big vision for your business, but if your beliefs are such that you don't believe that you can get there, then you're going to find yourself again, like not taking the action on it. And so to me, when you want to up level anything in life, it really truly starts with your mindset and your foundation because We are our own worst enemies so many times, and we may know that we want something and we can see it and we have it on paper, and people have the to-do list and then they don't do it and they don't take action. And so it's kind of peeling that back to say why and where are you holding yourself back?
Absolutely. I always encourage people to get curious. Like people procrastinate. I
Yeah.
personally have been a procrastinator in my lifetime and or I have worn that label. And I used to be super embarrassed about it. Like, oh my gosh, I'm a procrastinator. I'm never going to be successful because I put off. My mother always used to say, Kim will always put off to tomorrow what she should be doing today, you know?
Mhm.
And the reality was is there were reasons why those things were getting put off.
Mhm.
And until I got curious as to about why, they never could change because they can't
Mhm.
change. I want to
Yeah.
unpack a few of the things that you said because I think there's these huge nuggets of wisdom
Okay.
in there that I want to talk about a little further. The first one I want to talk about is pressure. And when you were talking about the your state of mind and being in a low state and a high state, I could see, even though I was never an athlete, like if you're on a team, and I do play on a gaming team. So I guess in
All
a weird
right.
way, I am an athlete. I play on a 12-person team that goes after really hard content in games. But if you make a mistake, if you miss the basket, or you don't get the point or you're not able to make the block that gets the other team the point in a game, you've got to recover from that super fast, I would assume, correct?
Right, yes. That's part of the training for sure.
Yeah. And so what you do is help people develop strategies that help them figure out how to move from one state to the other quickly.
Yes, I do.
Awesome. I love that. And, failure, I was asked to do a presentation this evening on should you be a business owner? So,
Okay.
one of the things that I'm talking about tonight is letting go of failure. Um, what I did in this presentation is I looked at really successful business owners that I know around me and what I think they share in common. And
Mhm.
one of the big commonalities is being able to release failure, like
Mhm.
not hold on to I failed at that. I can't do it again. How do you think how do you deal with failure? How does that show up in your world?
It really is shifting the way you look at it and shifting the meaning that you give it, right? And you can go back to what stories do you create over failures? And to me, it's like the faster you fail and you stack up those mistakes and failures, the faster you're going to succeed because that means you're figuring it out, right? If you want to avoid failure, you're going do nothing, right? But then that
Yeah.
is failure in and of itself. And there's even another piece of that where, and it's like, this is something I talk with athletes a lot, but it's like, if you want to play it safe, right? And you want to go play at 80% of your game and play it safe to try to not make those mistakes, then again, like you're holding yourself back. Because if you don't let yourself step up and go 100% and you don't allow yourself to make those mistakes, you can't up level your game because if you're not going 100%, you're not going to reach your next level. And so it's completely shifting the way you look at mistakes and failures. And the way you can shift that is it's like a mistake's going to happen because we're not perfect. And if you are out there playing the game, you're going to make mistakes. Those are your building blocks. And that's how you learn and it's how you grow. And so every time something happens, instead of saying, oh my gosh, I can't believe I just did that. And why did I do that? The story becomes, all right, what did I learn? How can I grow? How can I move forward? How can I use that to hit the next level? Right? And so again, it's those nuances in your head to change your story. And again, it's a habit. The way you react is a habit. And so you've got to consistently stay very, very conscious around those mistakes and how are you reacting to them when they happen.
So I'm sitting here thinking of the people that I work with and a lot of the students that show up in my marketing classes. And one of the things that you said is really interesting about people showing up and playing 80% of the game or
Mm.
even 50 or 60% of the
Yeah.
game. so many entrepreneurs, and I've always based it on hungry. The ones that are super hungry are the ones
Mhm.
that'll tend to play more full out. But there's a lot of I know that some of people are out there are uncomfortable, but there's also a lot of comfort in our world right now.
Mhm.
And it's you may not have a business that is your entire family is dependent upon your income to eat from that business. And so it's really easy to back off and only play at a certain percentage. Like I'm thinking in an athletic metaphor would be the person on the basketball team that doesn't intend to go to college and play basketball. They're there for their letter jacket or maybe even just because they enjoy their friends doing it.
Mhm.
What advice do you have for people who are at that kind of I don't have to perform at a higher level state to maybe really encourage them to get to a higher level?
I would ask them to check in with yourself, right? Because when I look at um, people and the habits, right? And I consider that a habit. That's a performance habit, just showing up 50, 60, 80%, whatever it is. But to me, how you do one thing is how you do everything, right? And so that is a piece of your like personal integrity to me, the way I look at it, because it's like if you want to you're not gonna show up 100% and go 100% in one area, and then you've created this habit of being lazy or just comfortable in another area, and so it's when I work with people, and sometimes, like you mentioned, it's comfortable,
Yeah,
right?
it's
So
easy.
it's easy. It's easy. I'm just going to be comfortable. And so I like to challenge people to when you are looking at it doesn't matter if if you're the athlete or you're the business owner or if you're in sales, what do you need to do to grow and to hit your next level? And you are not going to hit your next level being in the comfort zone, right? And so it's like we have to get uncomfortable. And so even for myself personally, I will sometimes take a look at where I'm at and say, okay, what am I avoiding? Right? And then I'll schedule that thing that I'm avoiding because I would rather hold my feet to the fire, right? So it's like book it. If there's something that you are uncomfortable that you're avoiding, put it on your calendar so you don't avoid it and get used to feeling uncomfortable. Because that to me, that's a win, right?
It is, yeah.
Yeah, you do it once and then you don't feel as uncomfortable the next time and you're growing a muscle. It's like working out, it's like lifting. And anytime you're trying a new skill, it's not comfortable when we first do it. And so you've got to do it and do it over and you've got to get that repetition in and then that muscle becomes stronger and then you're good at it, right? But so many people just sit and settle, and so I would just check in and what do you really want? And are you avoiding it because you're comfortable and you're a little fearful of stepping into that unknown?
Yeah, and stepping into failure and experiencing what that might be like. Our we call in our gaming world, we call the things that we do raids. And our raid lead is constantly telling us as a team to be comfortable in the chaos. Because as soon as you
Yeah,
become comfortable with the chaos, you can handle the chaos.
right.
And he's very much right. We've
Yeah.
gotten several great decorations in because we work together as a team and are comfortable with the chaos. So, another thing that you said that I think is really key is visualization. So, I'm always a huge proponent for writing down your vision, for reading it. I also am a big proponent of having a vision board. There's so much to being able to utilize all of your senses in moving toward how you want everything in your life to feel. And one thing that's interesting that you may not be aware of is a lot of people listening to this podcast have animals, hence the business animal, right?
Uh-huh.
So a lot of them are in animal-based businesses and a lot of them work with dogs and horses and anyone who works with animals can tell you that visualization in is so important. So for example, if you're going to go out and catch your horse, let's say. The way that you carry yourself, everything about your body has to be authentic, and it has to be at ease, or the horse is like, "Yeah, right, no."
Mhm.
Like, I'm way bigger than you and I am so much faster.
Mhm.
I'm leaving this equation, right? So one of the practices I think horse people do innately, and they sometimes don't think about it, is they visualize. And in the visualization process, all of the little subtle cues that the horse picks up on that make show their inauthenticity or their sketchiness, that horse
Mhm.
might go, "Ooh, this looks like a situation that I don't want to be part of." Those fade because they're able to visualize their way through that, and their whole physical body, not just the mindset, but their physical body, the way they carry themselves, the way they show up in the pen, it changes. So, I share that because I'm hoping that as people are out there listening to this, understanding, visualizing those things in your business, it works. It helps you, and especially when it comes to working on your business. If you're one of those people who sits down at your desk to work on your business, and I know a lot of you don't like to be at a desk or a computer. That's not your jam. You wanna be out in the pasture, you wanna be out doing something else. You wanna be out with your hands on an animal or coaching people or whatever it is that you do. But when you sit at your desk to work on your business, you get so distracted. So one of the practices that I would suggest, and I'd love for you to add any thoughts, Angie, to this, is that before you even walk in your office, visualize. What is it that you're going to do today? And are how is that success going to feel? And how will it feel to have that checked off? And what else would you add to that?
So I would add to that, when you are visualizing, and I like you touched on the part of how you feel,
Yeah.
but you heard me say earlier, you are going to perform your best and you're going to show up your best when you are in a higher state, meaning you feel confident, you feel great, you feel joy, maybe you have ease, you feel peace, right? And appreciation. I mean, appreciation is one of those highest emotions that we have. But so you're thinking and you're sitting and you're feeling in those high emotions, and you may think, well, that just sounds silly. But as you were thinking about working on your business, when you can, if you've even got to reflect a time when you yourself felt like, man, I remember that time with my business when I was in so much flow and I got so much done and I was focused and I was confident and things were just unfolding and it felt easy. And you can even hear from the language, like that language I just used helps me feel better.
Yeah.
And so it's like, but when we feel better and we are in that state and you can visualize yourself in that state, and when you visualize yourself in that state, your mind doesn't know the difference, right? And so it's going to what you're saying, if you're starting your day off that way, even visualizing the state that you want to be in, then it's going to help you get more done. Another key component of visualization is taking the time to, what could possibly trip me up or what could possibly distract me today? And because I think our world is full of distractions. And so when we can pause and then you can get really intentional of, and this isn't to create this in your day, but it's to be aware of what could happen. And then you are going to visualize how you're going to respond when it does. So then your brain has already decided that when my phone is blowing up with notifications and I'm working on this project, I'm going to stay focused. I'm going to silence my phone. I'm going to keep it to the side until and that's just like a small example, but it is, because from an athlete perspective, when you make the mistake, how are you going to respond? And when you've already done that, then you don't fall to a low state with getting frustrated and mad at yourself and why did I do that, right? So it's kind of conditioning the mind to stay in a high state so you have high performance throughout the day no matter what is coming at you, if that makes sense.
It totally makes sense. And I will tell you, I do have a practice of every morning. I basically hang out in my bed for about 15 minutes after I wake up. And I I take a glance at my calendar to see what's on my calendar for the day because my calendar sort of rules my life. It tells me where I need to be and what I need to do. And so I just kind of think my way through all of the things that are on my calendar. Um, what what are kind of the goals? What are the feelings around those things? Is there something in there that is feeling uncomfortable for me? And if so, why is that uncomfortable? And I love the thing about looking at the distractions too, because I have the tendency to get distracted super easily. So how to handle those and how to move through it. So thanks. That's good advice for everyone out there. All right. The final thing I want to talk about in this little section of the podcast before I get to my two fancy questions I ask everybody, um, beliefs are very important to you. And beliefs, internal beliefs make a great big difference in your performance. Will you talk just a little bit more about how beliefs are formed and how we can start to alter them to maybe fit a better narrative for how we can
Mhm.
perform better?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and beliefs are formed from early on, right? And those beliefs come from all aspects of our life, our experiences and people around us and events that have happened in your life. And you take all of those events and people and things, and they have created beliefs that you have internally in regards to yourself, is what I'm talking about. And when I am working with someone, and we all have these beliefs, and some of our beliefs serve us and some of them don't serve us. The other piece to that is some of the beliefs are true, but a lot of these beliefs that we've taken on throughout our life, they are not even true. But they're stories that we now tell about ourselves because of maybe an event that happened at some point in our life. And so, um, the one thing that is true for all of us is you will never outperform your belief in yourself, right? And you just
Wow,
kinda
that's
gotta
deep.
sit in
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's where it's so, so important to look at what are your beliefs? And then why are those beliefs in place? And then you also have to know that, again, a lot of those beliefs aren't real, but yet that could be the very thing that is holding you back. Because if you don't think you can do something, you may have a big vision. But if there's an underlying belief that says, I really want this, but I don't believe I can do it, you will not take the action to move in that direction. So again, you're not going to outperform your belief in yourself. And I also refer to it as your blueprint, again, because it's all the pieces of who you are that's been put together. And but you have to first look at what beliefs do you have, right? And where am I holding myself back? And then why? And you referenced this early on in our conversation here. Get curious,
Yeah.
right? Why do I believe that? What happened at me to me, at some point that I created this belief. And then you have to do the work. You've got to do the work to increase that belief in yourself. And some of that is looking at those fears. Like, most people, a lot of people have a fear of public speaking, right? But some people's belief that may be the very thing that helps to take their business to the next level. But yet, and so it's like they have a belief that they can't do it because of X. I mean, and you have to just be able to look at those fears and say, all right, I'm afraid. What's the worst that could happen? I'm going to do it, right? And let yourself have mistakes, let yourself fail, and then you're going to do it again and you're going to get better and you're going to get better and better. So again, that even kind of goes back to what do you do with those mistakes, right? And up leveling yourself. But your beliefs and your fears and your next level, like all of that is kind of tied together, but yet it's your stepping stones.
Absolutely. And another thing I would like to add about the beliefs, in Gestalt, I work with a lot of people who are carrying around beliefs that aren't even theirs. They don't even belong to them. And I was asked on a panel that I served on a while back, like, what is one piece of advice that you would give your younger self? That
Mhm.
age old question. And I think probably the biggest piece of advice I would give my younger self is learn faster what is yours and what's not, because
Mhm.
for many, many years, I carried around other people's belief systems that
Mhm.
didn't fit for me. So it's a
Yeah.
big step in getting
Mhm.
yourself towards freedom and being
Uh-huh.
able to show up at 100% and who you
Absolutely.
are. So very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. So, Angie, I always ask everybody on this podcast two questions. And the first question has to do with the tagline that I have in my world, which is creating a business that supports the life you want to live. I'm a big proponent in people not modifying their lives to support their business, but modifying how they do business to support their lives. Can you share a little bit about your story around You Are Strong and that and how it supports you in the life you want to live?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll share a little bit, around how it started because I think there's a lot of people out there, and maybe a lot of people listening to your podcast, they're already in their love. They're doing what they really, really want. But I also know there's a lot of people who have that full-time job, maybe it's the corporate job, and then they really have a heart pull to something else that they've always wanted to do or really want to do. And I would just say, like, I took a leap. I did have a full-time job, and at the time I was in a busy career that was demanding, and I had kids in sports, but I knew that the pull and the tug on my heart wasn't going to go away. So I started it part-time. And at that point, I started working with athletes locally doing boot camps on my time off on the weekend. So fitting my love in where I could. And then ultimately, fast forward, I guess, to today. In 2021, I had been in medical device sales and sales management for 22 years. And it's very common in that industry that every 2 to 3 years, there's restructuring, there's layoffs, well, it impacted me in 2021 and I was laid off. And I was really faced with, I absolutely could have gone back in and found another job and stayed in that career, but I knew, from a heart level, soul level, that I was supposed to go full time with You Are Strong. And it was very scary. I can emphasize that because it was like taking that jump, that leap. It's not like I was just like fully retired. So and so I took the leap, and I have been very conscious since I did that, like, what kind of life do I want? Right. And I work with people all across the country. I do a lot of virtual, but I also get to be in front of people here locally. I work with teams. And so a lot of times I am asking myself, what do I want? And am I going in the direction that I want to go in? And of course, I want to serve at a very high level. But to your point, I want that to also match the lifestyle that I want. As far as I'm creating a second career for myself, but I want a lot of freedom also built into that where I can travel and work from anywhere. And that's what I've been able to create.
I absolutely love that. And you're a very active mom, and you also have a nonprofit that you head
Yeah,
in memory of your husband.
I
And
do.
so lots of heart projects
I
that
do.
you give back into the world, and I love all of that. While we're on the subject of it, Chuck Wiley Foundation, if you are and it supports athletes, would you just tell just a little bit
Yeah,
about it?
yes.
Yeah,
So
share just a sentence or 2.
yeah. Okay. So my husband passed of cancer after a 5.5 year battle in 2020. And we were an athletic family. Him and I had met as college athletes. And then, of course, we raised athletes. And when he passed, he always had a huge heart and had always been a big giver. We had been able to help athletes and families along the way. And so when he passed, we created the Chuck Wiley Athletic Foundation in his memory. And it is with the intent and purpose to scholarship athletes in need and Chuck was a pitcher, so we like to say, help athletes to avoid life's curveballs and keep kids in the game. And so that is what we do because we know the importance of keeping kids involved and I know, what sports teaches, right? Sports is life and how important it is. And so we really, the intent is to keep kids in the game and not let financial circumstances take kids out. Cause I also know it can be expensive and hard on families. So
Absolutely. And they can go to chuckwileyfoundation.org, I believe.
Chuck
Dot
Wiley
co
Athletic Foundation.com.
dot com. There we
Yes.
go. Yeah, I should know that. I built the
You
website.
did build the website.
I should know that better, but I'm trying
Uh,
to do it from memory. I
that's
love
all
that.
right.
So I do believe there is a donation button on that
There
site that
is,
they
yeah.
can donate. And if you know an athlete who is in need, especially in the
West
southwestern
Missouri.
Missouri
Mhm.
area, yeah, please know that that site is there. All right, last question, and I know this one's the one you've been dreading because it's
Yeah.
yes. Would you, this animals are such a part of my life and they are such an inspiration in everything I do. And I have learned so many valuable lessons from the animals in my life. And I ask everyone to share a story, and I can already see your
Oof.
eyes tearing up because that's how much they impact us, right? It is huge. Would
Yeah.
you, if you can, share a story?
Yeah. So when my husband Chuck was not well, we had um we had lost our dog of 15 and a half years just before that. And we went about a year before we started looking at another dog. And our kids come in, our son, and he's like, "Hey, of course, we found these dogs in a Walmart parking lot, and this was the mix." And so we ended up getting one, and it is a Lab Pit Bull mix, and so grew to about 100 pounds. But he was there with Chuck,
Yeah.
and so connected to our family through that time and super connected to Chuck. He spent a lot of time with Chuck just because Chuck was, it's like the treatment and everything that you go through. And it was like when Chuck passed, you could tell he felt it. And um, I fully believe dogs have emotions, and some dogs have maybe feel like we're greater, a greater connection than other dogs, right? But, yeah, I just remember things that I went through personally, and this dog would just yeah, all 100 pounds would just it's like if you were having a hard time or a hard day, like, he would come and get in your lap and just lean on you, and so it's just that he knew, and
Yeah.
so that's just, they're really truly like a part of the family, when they're with you every day and they go through those things, and I think they feel the emotions of the family, and yeah, and so he's, just a special, special dog.
What's his name?
Coda.
Coda. That is
Coda, yeah.
awesome. They teach us so much about how and I see your story carried forward in your business and how you support people. I've
Uh,
known you for a few years now and how
uh-huh.
you show up in other people's lives and you bring Coda's energy to that.
Oh,
I think that's absolutely beautiful. And my
yeah,
guess
thank
is that
you.
Chuck probably did the same in
Yes.
his lifetime. So
Yes,
very cool. Okay, if someone wants to work with you, Angie, how because you do coach adults, you do
I
have
do.
programs. You're also a public speaker and
Mhm.
growing that part of your business. If somebody's interested in having you come speak at their event, or if they're interested in working with you, how would they get in touch with you?
Probably the best way is youarestrong.com and all spelled out. And on that website, you can connect with me. You can connect with me by setting an appointment. My phone number is on there. My email is on there. And then I'm also on social media. So I'm on Facebook under Angie Wiley. Obviously, you can message through that. Same thing with Instagram, LinkedIn, all of the main platforms. You can find me there as well.
Awesome, and all those will be in the show notes. Thank you, Angie, for
Okay.
hanging out with me
Thanks
today
for
in the
having me,
business
Kim.
animals.
Okay.
Awesome.
Alright, appreciate it. Thanks for having me.